Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening and welcome to the August 13th episode of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And we have another amazing show, of course. We have two parts to tonight's show. We have two guests at the beginning, and then the second half of the show will be announcing the finalists of the Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards for 2024. So you all get to see who that is. And the people who submitted their books will get to see if they make the cut, the first cut. And then the winners will be announced at this year's National Black Book Festival. So for those of you all who plan to attend, or if you're thinking about attending, it's going to be awesome. We don't have that many VIP passes left. So if you want to get a VIP pass, which includes 3 events, 3 special events, you get 2 of our specialty t-shirts and 2 paperbacks by one of the featured authors. So that's a great deal for only $145. That is an excellent deal. So anyway, we are going to get started with tonight's show. And our first guest is, and I'm trying to remember how to pronounce her first name. I think it's Kaia. It could be Kaia.
I think it's Kaia.
I think it's Kaia. This is her second time on the show. So when she comes on screen, I'll ask her. But her last name is Alderson, and she has a brand new book out called A League of Her Own. Oh, In a League of Her Own.
Yes.
And she does historical fiction. So when she comes on screen, I'll ask her about the pronunciation of her first name.
I'm here. It's Kaia.
Okay,
I don't know why the video's not working.
Oh.
Kaia.
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 Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it was 3 syllables. Okay. And it says your camera is showing on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, make sure that the little flap isn't covering your camera. Sometimes that happens.
It's up.
Oh, okay.
Well, is your on the bottom? There's a stop video.
It's on.
Okay. I don't have any other fixes.
I checked it before I logged in. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, normally when mine is black like that, there's like a little door on my work computer that closes and opens, and sometimes it's accidentally closed.
I see something there you go. Now. Oh, okay.
No, for whatever reason, it doesn't like my good camera, so we're going to use the computer camera.
Oh,
and that's fine.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
right.
It didn't. Well, I don't know why it's not connecting, but okay. I'm here.
Well,
hi.
Whichever one works. Hi, Kaia, right?
Kaia.
Kaia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know I'm not the only person that.
Oh no,
I know what to
you're
say.
good.
Okay. Well, welcome back to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you for having me.
And congratulations on your book. It came out last Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have a copy of the new book?
I do, right here.
Okay. In a League of Her Own.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh,
and
pretty.
Yeah, it's related to baseball. And I this is your first book.
Yes.
That actually
Sisters in
our
Arms.
book club read this book.
I remember that book.
And really enjoyed it.
Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
About the 688.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I am getting vibes of the very popular movie that I believe came out in the late 80s called A League of Her Own, which was the baseball movie about the female baseball league. So
yes.
Talk to us about this story.
Okay. This one is different. it's called In a League of Her Own because it is a fictional account of the life of Effa Manley, who is currently the only woman to be inducted in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And she was one of 4 women who owned a Negro Leagues team during that era in the 20s,
She
30s, and
owned the
40s.
team. Wow.
She co-owned the team with her husband,
Okay.
the Newark Eagles.
Oh, wow.
And this hat, well, their first year they were in Brooklyn, and this hat is a replica of the Brooklyn Eagles hat from 1935.
Oh, okay. You know, when we I'm going doing some history, but our company, cushcity.com, when we were online, we had the online store where that was our primary, and we had the brick and mortar. We sold the Negro League paraphernalia, the caps and the jerseys, and we sold jackets too.
Ooh, jackets. I
They
need one.
were nice, and you know, everything has a season. So they were popular in the early 2000s,
Yeah, that
and
sounds about right.
people were really buying them. And so it's interesting that you went back to look at the history of the Negro Leagues. Now, did you already have an interest in this? Were you looking for, as a follow-up to Sisters in Arms, were you looking at another subject? I'm noticing there's a lot of women in history, African American history, that have been unsung heroes that now we're hearing their stories.
Right.
I was completely shocked to find this story in the 80s. When I was in middle school, I was a huge New York Yankees fan. I was a dork. I memorized everything. I would go back for past players. At one point, I had the 1927 Murderers Row lineup of the New York Yankees memorized. I can't do that now. So I remember at one point my father mentioned to me the Negro Leagues, and I'm like, okay, I never heard of that, but okay. And so when after Sisters in Arms was done, and I said my next book, I was like, I knew 4 women had played in the Negro Leagues. I was like, let me start researching that. And I actually went to a off-Broadway play about Toni Stone, who's the most well-known of those 4 women. And I was doing, just my preliminary search, and this article comes up about the 4 Black women who owned Negro League teams. And I was like, what? And then I went and was reading, and the story of Effa Manley jumped out to me at the most, and I was just shocked and almost offended because I was like huge baseball nerd when I was deep into it. I had never heard of this woman, or knew that women had owned the team. She wasn't even the first one. So that once I started digging into her story, her whole life is a soap opera from the time she was conceived until she died. So it took a while for me to even narrow it down to the time period that I did.
So when you saw the article, do you remember where you saw the article about the women who owned the league?
I have it
Was it in a
somewhere.
Black newspaper, or was it in like one of the dailies, or was it a magazine?
I don't remember. There was like 2 or 3 articles. I know the Society of American Baseball Research has a couple articles. Chuck D had written an article where he talked about them as well. So it was just in my Google searching, my internet searching, that I found this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's like, oh wow. And the thing that also offended me is this team was in New Jersey, and I grew up in New Jersey and had no idea we had our
Still
own
never heard
Negro Leagues team.
anything.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of Black history where I grew up and did not know until after, years after I moved away. Like where my dad used to play golf with his friends back in the 20s and 30s was the first Black owned country club. And had no idea. So there's a lot of sports history that I just and I think even one of her players, Monty Irvin, in East Orange, there's a park named after him, and I believe it's across the street from my auntie's house that I went to every Thanksgiving and had no clue.
Well,
Wow,
you might want to revisit the Black Country Club concept.
Oh yeah.
And that sounds like a topic right for writing.
Oh
And
yeah.
you're right, that a lot of times there's history going on around us that we don't even know. The movie Hidden Figures and the book Hidden Figures, those people were in my same city. I mean, the adjacent city, the women, all of that was going on when I was a little girl. But we didn't know about
Had no
them.
idea.
We never heard about them. And I heard about them when everybody else did. And when they said where they were located, because the NASA where they were was the one near Newport News, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might have been Fort Eustis or Langley.
Langley. I remember that from the
Okay.
movie.
So that's like we went on field trips to Langley when I was in elementary school.
Mm-hmm. And nobody
So
said nothing.
no, and it just, it's amazing how history can be revealed. I'm glad that some of them were still alive when all of it, people became aware of them. Because I think one of the Hidden Figures women recently passed. I don't remember which one.
I think it was Miss Catherine. Yeah, it was Miss
That
Catherine.
sounds right. So, Rhonda, did you have a question?
No, I was just listening to y'all talk.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to behave myself and not get too geeky, but I can deep dive in some of this stuff.
But that's why I was just listening, because it's fascinating to me that this type of history will be in the city and the city not celebrated, and that you actually found this information by accident. It wasn't like you went to a museum and there was a big poster of her. You found this by accident. So,
I was looking for something slightly related, and I was like, "Oh, hi."
So now, is the story a biography, or is it more of a historical fiction?
It's historical fiction. It's based on her life and the real things that she did, but obviously, like, there's conversations and storylines I developed between her and her husband, and things that isn't documented, and I kind of had to figure it out. So I would definitely call this historical fiction. There was a moment where I wrote one scene in the book, and I finished it, and I was like, okay, I did my word count for the night. That was good. And in my head, she starts telling me, that's not true. That never happened. And I'm like, oh, I guess I need to do that. My bad.
Well, people say their books talk to them. Their characters talk to them when they're writing. And I can attest that is true.
Yeah. So I was like, my bad.
I wanted to just give some feedback about a couple people who are watching. One said good evening from Huntsville, Alabama.
Hi.
And then one said they're watching from the city where soul, Jackson, Mississippi. And the person who wrote this, her first name is Sharon and her last name is Day. Okay. My sister name is Sharon. My maiden name is Day, but it's with an E. And my sister's name is Sharon, spelled the exact same way, which is an odd spelling. Sherron. So my sister was named Sharon Day until she got married, except there's an E on it. So Sharon Day, whoever you are, is that somebody that knows you?
No, I don't know her. I was just wondering if she was related to Leon Day, who was a Hall of Fame pitcher that played for the Newark Eagles. And then he went on to the major leagues.
Well, maybe she'll respond and
yeah, I was like, oh,
somebody else said, Debbie Braun, I think, said she read the book and saw the Tony Stowe. Do you know what that is? I don't know if it's a typo. Is it Tony Stowe?
Debbie, help us out.
Tony Stone. Oh, Tony Stone, the female player.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
She played for the Indianapolis Clowns. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that was one of the popular caps that we used to sell. So
how has the story been well received? Now that people are starting to learn this history through your book.
So far, so good. I had sent the book to a couple of Black sports writers, and they read it and they loved it. And I was like, okay, well, if I can impress you guys, then I'm good. But I haven't looked at
something about it.
Hopefully, yeah. But
give you some extra crap.
Yeah, that would be dope. But I haven't read my reviews yet. I'm letting enough populate. I usually don't read my reviews. It's only when I'm bored and I have the thick skin to deal with it, and I can laugh it off, but I haven't looked yet.
Okay, yeah. Well, different people approach those reviews differently.
Yeah.
Some people say they never read them. Some people say they read them all. I read them all.
I read them all too.
Yeah, I read them all, and I yell at my computer screen for some of them that to me are not fair, or they clearly didn't read the book. They clearly didn't read it all.
I think one I saw is like someone shouted out is like, you didn't read the book, you didn't play. But it's okay. Thanks for the shout out.
So when you got into the women
Mm-hmm.
owning the teams,
Mm-hmm.
and you said there were some women players.
Mm-hmm.
I never. Now that's a factoid I didn't know about.
One of those players, the only one that's still alive, she actually played for the Detroit Stars and she owned it. And I
Oh,
could not find her. I was everybody I know in Michigan. I was like, does anybody know this woman in Grand Rapids? I could not get through because I did want to talk to her. Just, what was that like? She played in the 50s, so this was after Effa Manley's era, but it was still like completely fascinating to be like, oh my God, you owned and you played. That is so cool.
yeah.
And that's things
So
that, when we hear about women and especially Black women in the 30s and 40s and 50s, that's not, and you would never think that was possible.
right, you would.
Mhm.
Now this
Mhm.
Debbie Brown, she expounded on her previous comment. She said she read the book and saw the Tony Stone play
Mhm.
in May.
Yes, I
So
saw that.
there was a play based on.
Yes, there was an off-Broadway play that I saw in 2019 before the world changed.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. So
Mhm.
had you already started working on the book when you saw the play?
I hadn't. I was still toying, or I knew I wanted to do it, and I went to the play to get a sense of what their lives were like and where might have been some story. It was still helpful because they had somebody representing each member of that clown's team. So you had guys who were college educated and couldn't get gainful employment, and they would make more money playing ball for 6 months out of the year than they would doing anything else all year. You had guys, the almost like the Rocky story or the boxer story. This was the only thing they knew how to do or could do, and they were rough and tumble. And then the way they portrayed Tony Stone, it was almost like she had a learning disability or an intellectual disability, and how she processed the world and things and how she interacted with people, which I thought was interesting. But I didn't dig deeper in her story once I found Effa,
Oh, okay.
or Mrs.
So
Manley, I
what
should
made
say.
you settle on Effa?
Her what resonated with me is the fact that no one knows for sure if definitively if she was a white woman who chose to live Black, or she was just white presenting, and she just passed when if they assume she was white, oh well. If she was traveling by herself, she wouldn't, she would stay at the nice
Right.
hotels.
She wouldn't
Yeah.
correct people or bring attention to herself.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
that even if you weren't trying to do that and someone else made that error, that could be life or death. But my
Yeah.
grandmother was white presenting, and when I was 6, I remember asking her, "Grandma, are you white?" And she said, "No, I am not." And that always stuck with me, especially as I learned about this whole fascination with passing in the 20s and things like that. And as I did more digging, especially with Effa's story, I'm finding more women who could have passed and did not, and were very proudly, I'm Black, Black, Blackity Black.
Right.
Let's be like militant with our with our social activism type thing. And I found that really fascinating about why is it that when we hear the literature that came in the time period, it was always, oh yeah, oh poor, the whole, oh, tragic mulatto, and oh God, why don't I fit in this
Right.
world? And it was like, no,
Mhm.
it seems like that's a fiction that was given to us. I mean, I'm
Well, if
that
you
is somebody's story, but it's like that
right,
wasn't
it's not
the
everybody, and
dominant
not
one.
everybody did it to
Hmm.
Right.
survive, so to
Yeah.
speak. If you remember the book Passing,
Hmm.
in Passing, she passed not because she had to. She was married to a dark-skinned man.
Hmm.
She was living her life.
Hmm.
But
It
every
was
once in
hot.
a while, she wanted to have some tea in a
Yeah.
nice restaurant.
Yeah, it
And
was
so
hot and I
since she
want
was
some AC.
light-skinned, she said, I'm gonna go have my
Hmm.
tea in this nice restaurant.
Hmm. Yeah. So like my grandmother passed when I was 8, so I never got to have those conversations with her about what it was like growing up in the 20s and 30s looking the way she did, and what, how do you navigate that space? How are you treated? And all of that. So doing this deep dive into Effa Manley's life was my way of kind of piecing together, answering those questions that I had for her. My grandmother is about 16 years younger than Effa Manley, so it would have been slightly different. Her experience might have been slightly different, but they were still both in New York City at the same time.
Okay. So what are the years that you cover in there?
In this book, I'm covering 1932 to 1947-ish with an epilogue in 1977.
Oh, so you
Okay.
cover some time.
Yes.
Now, what is that? How did that research process go? Because you are covering a pretty good amount of time.
I got every book I could find that talked about her. There's about 4 or 5 books that sports writers did on her, and they focused mostly on the baseball, and they kind of glossed over the social rights stuff. And they all said, "Oh, she was a white woman who chose to live as Black." And then right as I would, one of the first interviews I did when Sisters in Arms came out with was with Andrea Williams, and she then put out a book, a nonfiction book about Effa Manley, and it was my first time reading an account of her life written by a Black woman, and it was a little bit different. It's like, no, she's Black. And then I was finding other articles by academics and women of color writing about her, and they're like, no, she's Black. And when I went into the census records, it actually doesn't matter. The drama with Effa Manley's heritage is that it was assumed her mother was white, married to a Black man, and F was born in 1897, and that she had an affair with her white employer. Whether it was consensual or not, it's never been discussed or proven. And then he was supposedly her biological father, the sperm donor, if you will. And like her mother's husband divorced her over this whole situation. So it was always assumed, oh yeah, she's white. She just grew up in this Black family at this time period. Whereas like, okay, that's interesting. But when you go in the census records, it doesn't matter who the sperm donor was, because her grandfather was actually listed either as mulatto or Native American or some form of person of color. So regardless, Effa Manley was a person of color. She had some color in her blood, and she grew up in a Black family with her older and younger siblings, or half siblings, I should say.
Okay. So when
Or is my
you
opinion she's Black?
so when they did the cover, show us the cover again because I wanted to.
Yeah.
For people
Okay.
who tuned in
Oh yeah,
later.
this was fun. This was a
Yeah.
fun
So
project.
they really don't show you her face.
No.
So they kind of
And that,
leave
I'm
it up
sure
to
that
the
that was done
imagination.
purposely.
Well, you have to understand, even with Sisters in Arms, getting photos or to even get the picture together,
Yeah.
they're so rare. And the good ones had already, at least with Sisters in Arms, the good ones had already been used over and over again. So we had to cobble this together as best we could. Some things, I guess, I hope they don't mind me telling this, but like this is we had to use Yankee Stadium. And if you're a baseball geek like that, you know that facade, that's Yankee Stadium, which is fine because the story starts off in 1932 with her going to the World Series at Yankee Stadium. We could not find a picture of Negro League players that would fit. This is actually the New York Yankees. So just to go to cobble together, a picture like this, it was, it was a lot of emails back and forth. So I knew going in, yeah, it was probably going to be a picture of her back. But in my head, if you're a Star Wars geek, there's a shot when Darth Vader is looking out on the space battle, and it was like he was by himself, and it was like it gave a sense of loneliness. Like it's, you know what, you got what you wanted, but it's really lonely at the top, and so it kind of evokes that feeling.
She does look like kind of like on an island at the baseball.
That's what I'm picturing.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this. It's like with
Yeah, and with the
everything that's
hair.
going on, she's by herself. Yeah.
And with the hair, giving her appearance and her ethnic makeup, I was like, okay, we're not trying to trick anybody. Because I went to like some bookstores, a Black bookstore, and she was like, I saw this book, but I couldn't tell if it was a Black book. And I'm like, oh no, it's Black. It's definitely Black. It wasn't on purpose. It's just the subject matter.
Just listening to your story, I cannot imagine that she would be a white woman who would choose to live as Black. I'm just imagining a Black woman who was light-skinned and used that privilege, but I just can't see, because she was alone. Why would she choose to live that lonely life to where she would experience that type of treatment?
Well, she grew up in a Black family. Her older half siblings were Black. Her mother remarried a Black man after she was born, had more kids, more Black kids. She grew up in this family. And then it was when she was 16 or 17, somewhere in there, when she's about to graduate high school, her mother pulls her aside. Listen, you white, go ahead and live your white life. And she chose not to. She married, as soon as she graduated from high school, she married a Black man that she met in Atlantic City, and they moved to Harlem.
Okay, and I see that makes a lot of sense. I can see that now.
Yeah. I actually found somebody's master's thesis. They did a psychological breakdown on Effa Manley because I had such a hard time getting into her head. Like, you know, when I'm writing the book is Effa, obviously be respectful is Mrs. Manley, but it's like, what are you thinking? What is driving some of these decisions you made? What made you do that? But in one of her interviews later in life, she did like this big comprehensive recording that you can pull offline. And she said, you know what, from time to time, I always wondered what it was like to be with white men. Oh, well, it's like, oh, I'm good. She got married 4 times and they were all the black men.
Wow,
Okay.
that's reminiscent of the Hattie McDaniel book. She got
Mm-hmm.
married 4 times. We
Mm-hmm.
talked about that on the show that came out
Mm-hmm.
in January of this year,
Mm-hmm.
The Queen of Sugar Hill.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting learning about Black women at the turn of the century the turn of the century to the 1900s, that century, and the
Mm-hmm.
early part of that century,
Mm-hmm.
and how they had to navigate, especially if they were educated or wanted to get an education,
Mm-hmm.
and how they were able to navigate just trying to be better, to
Mm-hmm.
succeed in a world that they had to be very, very strategic.
Mm-hmm. And in Mrs. Manley's case, she even said in those interviews with her first marriage, it fell apart because I was ambitious. And there was like this empty, unspoken part, and he was not. And so she basically worked out a way to social climb herself in Harlem society, and she probably would have been known for something else regardless. But then her husband buys this baseball team. She wanted to be a hat designer and an interior decorator, and that's what she was trying to do when she meets this man. And then he's like, oh, by the way, I bought this team and I need you to do all the little paperwork stuff while I go scout around the country and scout players. And that turned her into being basically the general manager. She's negotiating player contracts, supply contracts, having to deal with this man's world of baseball where they're basically telling her, you don't belong here, go home. And she's like, no, you're going to listen to what I have to say. And she even told them years before integration happened, if you guys don't get your stuff together business wise, the major leagues are going to come in when they decide to integrate. They're going to take all the good talent and bankrupt us. And that's what happened. They didn't listen to her.
Yep.
And that's what happened.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the major leagues soaked up everything.
Mm-hmm.
How long
some of the stuff,
League.
I dug up or the puzzle pieces I put together had me irate and how that happened. And I had to keep it in Mrs. Manley's perspective. So like I don't know. I didn't go too deep in the mini feud she had with Jackie Robinson, but I was like, she was kind of right. He was kind of right, but she was kind of more right. And that feud, I'm like, I love Jackie Robinson. I was like, his family is still around. I'm like, I'm so sorry, but
So you just gonna drop that jewel on us with 2 minutes left in your interview, so we can't even ask you what happened.
oh
yeah. But she
sorry.
is, I forgot her first name, but Mrs. Robinson is still alive. I think she's
Mrs. Rachel Robinson, she's 102.
102
Yeah.
birthday. And that's amazing to live that long. And she still seems to be, she still looks good. She still looks like she's active and everything. And she lived a long time after
She
he
did.
did.
Because he passed in 72.
In the 70s. And I think he had cancer.
He's suffered from diabetes.
Diabetes, okay.
Well, you figure the stress he was under doing what he
I'm
did. Like I said, I
sure.
have the utmost respect for him. And that movie did not do what he had
He had to
went
actually deal with.
Yeah, but it's like that breaking you down the way what activates diabetes is like, yeah. It was a slow death, but yeah.
Yeah. And then, even though you're a great player, they're looking, they only see your color, That's all they see.
And you can't fight back, necessarily within that situation. Because I don't know if people realize Jackie Robinson was a member of the Black Panthers in World War II, the unit, the 761st Cavalry.
The 761st
and he got court-martialed because he was down in Texas and they tried to send him to the back of the bus and he said no. forcefully, and
And he
he got
won it.
kicked out of the army, and he never saw combat, but he is a world war, and he was Jack Robinson. He wasn't Jackie Robinson is when he hit Major League Baseball.
Yeah, a lot of people don't
definitely was.
realize that, yeah, he was court-martialed, but he won the court-martial and he left the army and then went and played baseball.
And he was an officer, and the reason why he was an officer was Joe Louis. When Joe Louis was in the army in the war, he was doing all the promo tours. He wound up in Kansas, where he realized there's a bunch of these guys that have college educations and are eligible for officer training school, and they're giving him the runaround. So Joe Louis used his connections, and he's the reason why Jackie Robinson was an officer.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, as Rhonda said, you dropped these nuggets and it's the end of the show, end of the segment. But
You know what?
show the cover one more time.
Go ahead and read the book, and then we can talk some more.
Yeah, we're going to talk. We're going to talk.
We can deep dive on some of this stuff.
Thank you so much. Congratulations again.
Thank you. And thank you for having me again.
The research that you do to bring the story to life. That's much appreciated.
Yes, very interesting.
And I appreciate you, because you guys do a bang up job helping us authors out and helping these readers out. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. We love it. So, all right. So have a great evening, and we hope to see you again soon.
Okay. See you soon.
Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, that was about the Negro League, ownership of the Negro League baseball team, and a woman owned it. So that was a neat story. So now we have our next guest is Dr. Sabrina Williams, and her book is called Learning to Trust. And the subhead is A Black Family's Guide for Building, Protecting, and Transferring Wealth. So Sabrina, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV. And as soon as you get your audio, so you can, yep, your sound should be okay now.
Great.
Okay.
Hello, Dr. Sabrina.
Hi, how are you?
How are you doing?
It's great seeing you.
Great to be here.
Well, welcome to the show, and congratulations on your book, which came out last month.
Thank you.
So it's a brand new release. And tell us why you chose this. You know, we hear a lot about wealth, building wealth, and the lack thereof among Black families. And what made you pick this particular topic? And I have a couple of questions, but just in general, questions about building wealth. Okay. But
great question.
Yeah, learning to trust. How did you come up with this concept?
So the concept actually came up with me. It chose me. I didn't really choose it. Back during the pandemic, if you would remember, there were quite a few people that looked like the three of us on this call that were dying. And that struck me in several ways, because I reached the half-century mark during the pandemic, and just doing some reflecting on my life and where I was in my life and my finances. And I just kind of thought about the families that were losing loved ones that, for all intentions, went to the hospital with every intention of coming back home and being well, being whole. But that didn't happen. And I am also not just an author, I'm an investor as well, a real estate investor. So I saw and still see things that are happening as a result of people not preparing for what came during the pandemic. So it was just that interest that kind of sparked, that incident that kind of sparked my interest at that time, but I did not begin my writing until 3 years later.
A lot of people were lost at the same time. Yeah, we did. A lot of people were lost during the pandemic, including my dad, who he was in a nursing home, and once the pandemic hit, the nursing home patients were isolated. They couldn't go outside. Right. They couldn't, do anything. Which, in hindsight, if they had gone outside just to get some fresh air and sun, it would have been more beneficial, because vitamin D
Right.
deficiency is one of the precursors to catching COVID. But at any rate, there were so many people lost, and it was suddenly, and you couldn't make contact with them. You couldn't, you couldn't be with your loved one at all. When he went to the hospital, we were able to do a Zoom call with him. And it's hard looking back on it. It just seems so surreal. But we weren't able to be with him. And we just got a phone call that he had passed. But we did do the Zoom call, and he was aware that we were on this. It was me and my siblings that we were on there, because he did respond. He responded to our voices. But yeah, that was a very traumatic time. And a lot of people, unfortunately, death is something a lot of people don't want to think about,
Right.
even though it's going to happen to every single human being, and we don't know when, but we don't want to leave our families and, hold with a financial burden.
Right.
Do go. So that's something that really came to, I guess, to a head during COVID, because so many people were dying so quickly. So, in such large numbers. So what aspect of the financial planning, or lack thereof, did you focus on when you did your book, when you wrote your book, in terms of the family?
Okay, so as I said, the idea, the concept was actually birthed during the pandemic. But you know how sometimes when things are placed in our spirit, we hear, but we don't really listen, and we're certainly not obedient. That's my story. So fast forward, life happened. I left my state and went to another state to help a friend on a project that was supposed to last 3 months, and it ended up lasting about a little over 2 years. And during that time frame, I found myself in a little bit of a how do I say this, sticky situation from a legal standpoint. So when I started writing, I started my writing literally because of a quest that I had been on to find some protection for my assets. And so when I thought about it, it all links together. When you talk about what was happening during the pandemic, and the people that were dying, the people that did not have estate plans in place, if you look at what estate planning is, it addresses that, but it also addresses asset protection when you look at the whole. So asset protection, and my search for it is where I started. And that's kind of where I start the book, but I cover so many different things. And really, when you talk about estate planning, it's not talked about in the African American community a lot of times, because we don't know where to start the conversation. We don't know what we don't know. So for me, writing this book was my way of taking what I had learned and at least giving my community a starting point. So my goal is really to start a national conversation and to give families a place to start the conversation.
Love that. I think a lot of times, especially people like me, I'm in a military family. Both my parents were in the military. I was in the military. My daughter benefits from that. So I think sometimes because because we're veterans, we're always going to be taken care of. I'm 100% disabled. So the government is taking care of me, but it's easy when we get into that comfort zone to forget that there are other people who
Right.
don't have those same benefits.
Right.
And when they're sick, they can't run to the VA and get taken care of. There's some veterans who haven't been able to go to the VA and get taken care of. And so I think it's
Right.
very important for us to read books like this so we can still plan. The other part of it is, if I were to die today or tomorrow, the government is going to bury me because I spent 23 years in the Army. But what happens when my significant other passes and he can't benefit from that same thing? So
Mhm.
we still have to estate plan. We can't stay in that comfort zone that we're going to be okay.
Correct. And even with estate planning, what I want people to understand, because what I've been told by many people, well, I don't have a lot of assets. I don't own my own home. I don't really own a car. I don't own any real estate. So my situation is different from yours, Sabrina.
Right.
Well, if you think about it, that may be true, but there are still some aspects of estate planning that applies to all of us. For example, let's go back to the pandemic. Those individuals that went into the hospital that did not have a healthcare directive in place, that did not have a power of attorney identified, a lot of decisions had to be made during that time frame. And when sickness doesn't discriminate, it doesn't just happen to wealthy people, middle class people. It can happen to anybody, and decisions will have to be made. So when people say, well, I'm not going to do my estate plan because I really don't have any assets, your body is an asset. And that's one of the most important assets that we have. And oftentimes we put our families in really tough situations. For example, and I think I used this example or something similar in the book. Let's just say if there was a person that was in a car accident and that person had multiple family members that had differing opinions about their care and what should happen. Okay, do you resuscitate or do you not resuscitate? What would that person have wanted? Everybody's left to guess what that person may want, when estate planning will make it plain and clear what a person's wishes are.
Do you
Well,
find
one, show your cover
okay.
of the book, because you have,
Yeah.
I see it behind you, but someone asked what was the title of the book, and so I answered
Yeah,
them in the chat.
learning to
Learning
trust.
to trust.
I,
Okay.
I
Learning
like
to trust.
that because that trust is kind of a double entendre. We have to learn to trust
Yeah,
people, but at the same time, we need to make a
and
trust. We need
trust.
to
Yeah,
learn how to do that.
That's
yeah.
true.
Do you find that a lot of young people think that, okay, I'm young, I have a long time to worry about that, and so they don't think about putting together their will or or putting things into trust. I mean, we found that even in the army where there were soldiers who were dying in Iraq, and they never updated their will. They never put anything into trust. And so now their spouse, who's now finds herself as a widow, is not taken care of because he forgot to put her into the
Okay.
will. Because yeah, he did his insurance, but it was always his mama.
So I do talk about that in the book, the importance of updating our plans,
Yes.
because life happens, situations change. But I want to go back to something you said. With young people, I think it is essential, if we are to pass on generational wealth to our heirs, that we begin teaching them as early as possible. So for me, at uh, half a century plus, to learn a seasoned seasoned
Stop that.
writer. Okay, but for me, I'm learning different things as it relates to a trust. I have not always operated through trust. So I'm having to relearn how I have handled my finances. Now, if you take a young person and you start them out handling things a certain way, you don't have to unlearn and relearn
Right.
things. And so that's the challenge I face. So to answer your question, I think the earlier these concepts are introduced to our family members, the better. Because again, what happens if they become a successor at a young age? Think about how many times a mother loses her life and the 17-year-old or the 18-year-old has to step up and is now the man of the house or the lady
Yes.
of the house. So if those concepts are taught to our children when they are younger, the earlier we start, the better, so they know how to get in there and just take over, you know?
It is important. I have another question for you. Well, I have one's a statement, the other's a question. A lot of
Okay.
people think of estate planning, they think of rich people. They think you have to
Exactly.
be rich to
They
need
think of an
estate
actual
planning.
estate, right?
Yeah, right. you know, almost a castle, but you know, one of those kinds of properties where, you know, it's the biggest building, almost like how the plantations were, where you had the smaller slave quarters, but now they make them where they have guest quarters behind. People think of it, you know, they think of it like that. They don't think a middle class person necessarily needs it. So
Right.
just the term estate throws them off, you know. But it can be, and your estate is whatever you have. It is not, it doesn't have to be a castle. Well, it is your castle, you know.
And the reality is, no matter how much or how little we have, when we pass on, someone wants what we have. I'll take, for example, in my family, my grandparents on both sides, maternal and paternal, neither one of them were really educated people, but the little bit that they did have, they were able to pass on. But the way they passed it on to us created issues for us. And I do talk about that in the book as well. You think about the number of families right now that are struggling with heirs property and not knowing how to handle the division of heirs property, or fighting over, well, who gets the property because it was left as heirs property. But the reality is, our foreparents did the best that they could with the knowledge that they had. And so when we learn, and as we learn, we are building on that foundation that they left for us. So we can now teach our children to do things differently. So when we talk about, not having a lot, as I say, I go back to the pandemic. Individuals may not have had a lot, but the reality was, rich people got sick during the pandemic and died. So did people that were middle class. So did people that were poor. So the idea that you have to have a lot is very misleading. There are just some things that we need to do to put ourselves in a position to transition from this world, and to do it in such a way that our families are not left struggling. So, for example, maybe you don't have a lot in terms of assets, but have you prepared yourself to die? Have you planned out your funeral? Have you paid for your funeral? Is your family going to have to start a GoFundMe just to be able to put you in the ground? Like you said, Dr. Lawson, you're military, so you will get a good burial. What about the number of people that are not military and their families are left struggling every day just to come up with the money to bury them? I had a lady to tell me she lost her mother in August during the pandemic. It was December before they were able to bury her because there was no money. So there are things that people can do to prepare, even if they don't have a lot in terms of physical assets. And that's part of this messaging that I really want our community to start thinking about, because it makes no sense for us to over and over and over have to pass the hat just to bury people. That happened to me when I was a young woman. Went to college and I'm in graduate school, and we had a death in the family. And literally I had to take student loan money, student scholarship money to pay for a funeral. I mean, how fair was that to me? I'm trying to get an education and better myself, but I had to take that money to be able to bury my loved one. So there are things that, they're not even related to whether you have, assets or homes or wealth or real estate. They're just some common courtesy things that we can do as individuals to make life easier for the people that we say we love.
That's real talk right there.
Yeah, a lot of things end up falling on the responsible sibling, child, adult child, or relative. It ends up falling on the responsible one, which is unfair, but that's just how it ends up, Now I have a question about home ownership, because I see this all over social media. People saying it is not worth it to own a home. And because you really don't, it's the cons outweigh the pros. And
Mhm.
I'm of a completely different mindset. I'll just give you an example, a personal example.
Mhm.
We rented a home. So we've been married 31 years, 32
Mhm.
actually next month. We rented a home for 13 years, and the landlord never raised the rent, which was really unusual.
Wonderful.
Um,
Mhm.
that was unusual.
Yeah.
That money is gone.
Mhm.
That 13 years of rent is gone. We built our house, and then we've been living in the house we built for 17 years. So now we have, 6-figure equity. We
Mhm.
wouldn't have had that if we were still renting. And that's money we can pass to our children. If we want to take money out for something, we can.
Mhm.
It's actual money, it's an asset, and it makes your net worth is actually you're worth something. In terms of not personally, but financially. You have a net worth that's, something there rather than just
Right.
debt and a few other things. So I don't agree. Now there's upkeep, but there's something to when if you have a property, you want to take care of it.
So, Gwen, let me just say this. Let me give
Okay.
you kind of a different perspective.
Okay.
I personally, I mean,
Wait, you faded
Wait,
you faded out a
your
little bit.
sound is fading out.
can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can
but
you
it's
hear
like an echo. It's like it's like you're not talking directly into the mic.
the mic? Can you
There,
hear me?
there.
Oh, that's
Now
better.
that
That's
that's
Okay,
better.
great,
let me
right
get closer.
there. Okay. All
Okay,
right.
so let me just give you a different perspective on this. I'm a real
Okay.
estate investor, so I have owned many homes during my
Okay.
lifetime, or I should say many houses, because
Okay.
all of them have not been homes. So here's the thing. I don't have a problem with owning a home per se, but it is how you own the home, how you
Yeah.
hold the home that is the issue. So the
Okay.
whole messaging of learning to trust is, do you really want to have a house with 6-figure equity in your name? And let me tell you why you might want to think about that. My girlfriend was driving on the interstate a year ago. She was in a car accident and she was at fault in this car accident. So she just found out 2 weeks ago that one of the individuals in the accident is suing her personally. So she's like you. She has owned her home for 20 years. She has a ton of equity sitting in her home. So when someone sues you, typically they believe that they can get more out of you than they could out of your insurance company. So that would be my concern with that scenario that you just painted. I own my home. We have 6-figure equity in the home. So what happens if you're that person that's driving on the interstate and you're minding your own business and all of a sudden you gotta swerve to keep from having an accident, but you cause an accident, and now people are coming after you personally. So it's not in the owning of the home per se, it's how you hold the home. Do you really want that home in your name? This is another thing to think about for those of us that have aging parents. So typically when our parents get to a certain stage, of course, if they have declining health or health issues, we start thinking about additional resources that may be available, or we may want to transition them to maybe a nursing home or some other type facility. Well, if they have that home that's paid for and it's in their name, the first thing that these facilities are going to want to know, and especially if you are getting, federal assistance or state assistance, is what type of assets do you own? So now that family home that you were planning to leave behind for your children and your grandchildren, you may have to, that may become part of probate, so that equity can be used to pay off the cost of whatever type of care that you receive. So there are some reasons why you may want to think twice, not so much in the ownership, it's how you hold things, how you have them titled. That is why it is so important to really
To
read
put it in a
this,
trust?
think about what it is saying to you. Because there are, and life happens to all of us. My girlfriend didn't have a clue. She was coming back from a soccer tournament. She was headed home. She had no clue that she would be involved in a car accident. And then a year later, she's getting a summons saying she's been sued.
Yeah,
So just
I really see those kinds of things though more as spooks. I mean, there's no way you could plan for that. But I do hear what you're saying about the as parents age, because we went through that as siblings. Our mother passed, years before, but our dad, got old. He couldn't really live on his own. And then so when you have to put them in a nursing facility, they are very expensive. And
Right.
so, I mean, extremely. And if you're going to put them in a nice one, and I don't mean like wealthy, I just mean not
Nice.
the low end. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Where they don't have to
You
worry.
don't want your parents in a hovel. You don't want
Right.
somewhere where they're going to be getting bed bugs and sores and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, I do hear what you're saying. I still think on balance, because you have to do things on balance. Owning is better than renting, but I do hear you about how you hold the property.
Hold it. Right.
I have one
Right.
quick question, 'cause we only have 4 minutes left. I
Yes.
want to know what you think about reverse mortgages, because to me, a reverse mortgage means the children don't get the home.
So I'm not really in a position to speak on reverse mortgages because I've never really looked at reverse mortgages. So it would be kind of unfair for me to comment on that. 'Cause I've
Okay,
just
and
never,
I respect that.
yeah,
I respect
yeah.
that.
I've never
But
really looked
everybody
at,
I
yeah.
know, and again, we have personal experience with my dad got a reverse mortgage. Everybody I know that I've talked to that got a reverse mortgage, the home was taken by the bank. The home was no longer with the children. And I've talked to several people whose parents, and people do things for a reason, because they want to maintain a certain lifestyle. They make a reverse mortgage sound, easy. And then they
Appealing.
tell you still own the home. Well, technically you do, but then they say you can pay it back anytime. You don't have any money to pay it back. If you
Right.
get, if you get most of what your home is worth out of it, you don't have any more, and so you can't pay it back. What are you gonna pay it back with? So I just would like to caution people about the reverse mortgage situation. Just really know what you're getting into, which really it means that your children don't get the home. And you may be cool with that. That may be fine. Or, for some people, they just need money to live on, and they're still in good health. They don't need to go to a nursing home, but they need money to live on. So hold your book up one more time, Sabrina, and show us your book, and tell people how they can get a copy of Learning to Trust.
Great. I'm
And do
glad
you
you
offer like consulting services?
I do. So let me go back to the first question you asked me. So where can they get a copy? So I am distributing my book personally myself, the physical book. So you can only buy the physical book by attending one of my live events or ordering it from my website, www.iamsonoted.co. iamsonoted.co. So that's where you get the physical book. Okay. I am actually doing a promotion starting today for all of the e-readers on Amazon. So if you are an e-reader, go over to Amazon, find Learning to Trust. You can get it for 99 cents for 1 week only.
Okay.
And since you ladies were so nice to have me tonight on your program, I am also offering a promotion for the next 24 hours. for anybody that comes to my website, www.imsewenotted.co, purchase the book using the promo code BAMTV, Black Authors Matter TV.
Okay.
You will receive a $5 off discount for purchasing the book. So that's
Okay, so
my
my will
gift to
promo
you.
code now. That's
Yes.
neat. Okay.
Put the promo code in BAMTV,
TV.
the
Okay.
promo code, and that's for 24 hours on the physical book. But the ebook on Amazon, I have that discounted for the next week, starting today. You can get it for 99 cents. And I promise once you read that ebook, you are going to want you a hard copy. I want this book to be something that starts a conversation, but also is something that you share with others, because we do need to start talking in a Black community about building, protecting, and transferring our wealth to the next generation.
We do. Well, thank you so much, Sabrina. This has been educational and enlightening for the audience. And congratulations on your book.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited. I will be crisscrossing the country with this message. Learn to trust. Learn to trust.
Love it.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being on the show tonight and for educating us on this very important subject. And I will be reading the book myself because I need to put my house in trust.
Yes, ma'am, you do. And Miss Gwen, with all that equity, you do too. You do too.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
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 You know, after she said it about the accident, I hope nobody watches this show and says, well, let me go hit her.
I know, I thought about that when she was talking. I said, oh, they about to get you, Gwen.
No. Anyway, that's kind of funny. Let me let everybody on. We're going to be introducing our finalists for the Black Authors Matter Children's Book Awards. And we have our judges on tonight. All but one. She was under the weather, so she wasn't able to join us. But we have Shalita Anderson. We have Mary Evans, Brenda White, and Rhonda Jackson Garcia on, and they won the judges panel. And you all need to come on camera. Are you all being shy or what?
I know y'all not gonna get shy up in here.
So we want you all to be on camera when we announce the finalists. And what we're going to do, I'm going to be naming them by the categories, and then we have a video for each category that shows the pictures and the book covers. And then after we announce the finalists, then we're going to have a discussion about the process and how it went, and answer any questions people may have after we announce the finalists. And I do want to say before we get started, you will find some people were finalists in more than one category. And that's because people could submit their books under more than one category, and they were evaluated based on each individual category. So there were 2 or 3 people who were finalists in multiple categories. So we're going to start right in with African diaspora is our first category. And our media manager is going to show the video. The finalists are for African diaspora. Sinai Cheggy, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name, but this is a teen author. Her book is A Diver Like Me. And Larry Ucali Johnson read Letter to My Young Brothers and Their Parents. So we only had 2 finalists in the African diaspora category. And most of them we have 5, but it depended on the number of submissions and the quality of the submissions. So some of them we had a smaller number of finalists. So the next category is coloring books, workbooks, activity books. We put these all together. The finalists are Shanquilla or Shankia Gamble. And I can't pronounce the title, is French, but let's say Laissez les Bon. Okay, Ashley Irvin, Detective Harper and the Bakery Mystery. Olivia Marmion, Fuzzy Face Monsters. It's a travel and sketchbook. Laura Troutman, Color Me Friend. And Shannon Wilson, Black Girls in Space. So these are the finalists for coloring books, workbooks, activity books. We have to combine some categories based on just the general amount of books out there in that category and submissions. So the next one is comic books and graphic novels. And we have the finalist is the same person, but it's for two different books. And it's Edwin Brown for the 0 Hour Epsilon Force #2. And then he also submitted Epsilon Force #2, the G8 edition, which is a different edition of the book. And his diligence on the comic book imagery was just really amazing. So the next category, this was one of our biggest submission categories. We spent a lot of time going through the book, all the books that were submitted, educational. So the 5 finalists are Tamara Kaysen with Dreams of Success, Lisa Curry Baki for Breakfast is the name of her book. Rashana Gould, The Adventures of Joni and Juliet. Jewel Rhodes, Soul Step. And actually, she wrote the book with her daughter, Kelly McWilliams. So, but Jewel was one who submitted it. And Mary Smith, The Piggy Bank Capers. So that's in the educational category. And our next category that also had a ton of submissions is motivational. So the finalists for motivational are Lindsay Davis and Michael Tyler for the book The Smallest Spot of a Dot. Rashana Gould, The Adventures of Joni and Juliet. She was a finalist in educational as well. Ray Lee, Making Room for Grandpa. Kiava Martinez, Sports Dream. And Eric Thomas, Standing Tall. So that's in the motivational category. The next category is religious faith. And the finalists are Joseph Henderson with Rainbow City, Constance Jones for God Likes Me, Terrence Lester and Zion Lester for Zion Learns to See, and Andrea Richardson for Fearfully and Wonderfully Made. So that's religious faith. And we're one of the few book awards, especially for children, but I think overall, but especially for children, that has a religious faith category. And that's because faith is very central to the African American community. So how could we leave it out? So our next one is not a common category, but it's one that's essential, especially in these times, and it's social commentary / justice. So the finalists are Nikki T. Anthony for The Price We Pay, Brian Buckmeyer for Come Home Safe, Kimba Hubbard for Missing Daddy, Living Life While Daddy's Away, Ray Lee, Making Room for Grandpa, and Terrence Lester and Zion Lester for Zion Learns to See. And finally, our final category is Best Illustrator. And the finalists for that category are Edwin Brown, again, he was a finalist in the comic book category. He also was a finalist for Best Illustrator. And both of his comic books, the illustrations were amazing. Rashana Gould, again, for The Adventures of Joni and Juliet. Ashley Irvin, Detective Harper and the Bakery Mystery. And Ashley Irvin, The Little Shepherd and the Lost Sheep. So those are all the finalists. And if you were a finalist, congratulations. And congratulations to all the people who submitted books. You know, if you put a book out there and you send it in for a competition, I've done it a number of times. And sometimes you are one of the finalists, and sometimes you win, and sometimes you don't. But you still need to submit your work because just the process is helpful. And we also, some of the things that we did this year, we're going to continue. And some things we're going to make adjustments for next year. We do that when we evaluate the books. We decide, are there some things that we can change? And one thing that we're going to change, and then I'll have all the judges talk. And Rhonda, you can talk too, even though you want to judge. If you were here in Houston, you would be a judge because we actually meet physically. We spend 2 sessions. The first one is like 8 hours long. And normally the second one's a little bit shorter, and then we go eat. But we eat during the first session, and it's 8 hours most of the time. But one thing we're going to change for next year's process is we're going to include 3 years. So people who may have heard about it late and didn't get to submit this year, they'll get a chance. So for next year, the books will have to be copyrighted in 2023, 2024, or 2025. So this will be our first time having a 3-year span rather than a 2-year span. Gives more people an opportunity to participate. So having said that, we are going to have our judges just give some greetings, and then we'll talk about some of the things that we encountered and some of the advice we may have for authors as they create their books and when they submit their books for a competition. So Shalina, you want to go first?
Absolutely. I'd first like to say everything was just amazing. We had an opportunity to take a look at some of the great work that's being done out there. I would say that consistency is very important. The beautiful illustrations, they help to tell the story for sure. And then when you're telling your story, it needs to be something that the child can relate to. I think those were the biggest ones that made the book amazing, even more so. So we were looking as if we were that age group pretty much, saying that, you know, this would really appeal to us to have something like that that can speak to the audience. And so overall, I think everybody did an amazing job. And it's just an honor to be a part of this process and look at the work that's being done for our children. So thank you for the opportunity.
And I didn't mention all of these women are authors too. So they're all children's authors. Well, no, I take that back. 3 out of the 6. So 4 out of the 6. So me, Shalita, Pam, who can't be on tonight because she's ill, and Mary are children's authors. We have other books too, but we're all children's authors as well. Rhonda is in a category all her own because she writes horror. And that not Rhonda Lawson, Rhonda Garcia. We got 2 Rhondas. She writes horror, which is uncommon for Black women. So, or
She
maybe
does it,
even
though.
women in general. But she loves it, and she goes all over. She's been all over the world with her horror. And Brenda wants to write a children's book, she says, every time we meet, and we're encouraging her to do it. So Rhonda Jackson Garcia, you want to go next?
Hey, sure. It is always an honor to be able to engage with these works. When people submit them, I'm really excited about kids, about literacy for our babies, and so it's really important that they have quality reading material, not just for them to read themselves, but for their parents to read with them. So every year, it seems like the bar is raised higher and higher. I'm really excited about that, and I just want to. I'm very thankful for the opportunity to engage with these works. So thank you.
Okay, Brenda.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm always excited and honored that you allow me, who's not a children's author, to participate with the lovely ladies. I learn a lot every year and I get inspired and I want to write as well in the children's genre and still haven't done it. But one day I might do it because I honestly, like Rhonda said, believe in literacy for our children because we want them to be able to, make it in the world and be good citizens and being able to read and being confident. It comes from being able to read and understand. And so I think the quality work that we get from these children's authors is really, really good. And so I enjoyed the process. Thank you again. I was honored and thank you for allowing me to participate with this event. Thank you.
Okay, and Mary?
Hello, everyone. So I am just excited to be here to just share and encourage those authors who didn't make the finalists, along with all the other authors, and just to encourage you to keep writing for children, keep doing the research that you need to do. And we were really impressed with the variety of how the writers and the authors were sharing within each of the genres, the illustrations. So it was just a really fun time. And just, we always leave like, oh, that was a good idea. Oh, that's a great story. So we're excited for all of the finalists and thank you for this opportunity.
Okay. And Rhonda Lawson, Dr. Rhonda.
I just enjoy the contest. I love the work that all of these authors put into their books and the love and the thought that they put into it. And it shows that it gives me pleasure to see it because it shows that you care about what you're putting out because you are affecting the next generation. And I think I've said that on a few different episodes that when we put out quality, we are teaching somebody what right looks like. We're teaching somebody how to read. We're teaching somebody how to write. So it's very important that we always put our best foot forward when it comes to work like this. So when I see the work that that has been put in front of these judges, and every year you make it tough for the judges, let's just keep making it even more tough for them.
Yeah, well, one thing that we do when we're doing the judging, we each have a scorecard and we each give, we have a point system. And Shalita's laughing because, I mean, the scores can range widely and wildly. Sometimes somebody will really like a book and then somebody else may not like it. Normally, if a couple people really like a book, that's kind of universal. But sometimes one person will think something is good and another person will say, I don't get it, or whatever. So it's good to have different input from different people because it brings a balance. And so each book gets a score from 1 to 5, and we do 0.5, so we do 1.5 or whatever. Or sometimes we'll do, sometimes it's 3.8 or whatever. It'll be an odd number, but we add up the scores and the highest score is who gets to be a finalist. So it's completely democratic in that way, that is not weighed in one person's opinion over another. It's a combination of the scores from all the judges. So that's one thing that we do. And as we go around, I like each person to give a bit of advice based on the submissions we got. And the one I'm going to start with is, please read the guidelines when you submit for a contest or a competition. If the copyright, we had some really good books, but the copyright had to be 2023 and 2024. If that's said up front, it's like in bold or red, you can't miss it. I don't know if people thought we wouldn't notice, but the first thing we do when we evaluate a book, we go to the copyright page to make sure it met the guideline. And if it didn't, it got put in the bin to go to, because all of the books get donated to a local library in the African American community. Here in Houston is Acres Home Library. That's the library that receives the books. It automatically gets put to the side because it didn't follow the guidelines. And there were some that really kind of broke our hearts because they would have been finalists at a minimum. But you have to follow the guidelines. And it has to be strict. We can't bend the rules for anybody because we have to be fair to everybody. So look at the guidelines, read them, make sure your book meets the guidelines. Don't think people won't notice. And maybe in some processes they may not. But the first thing that we do in our session is we go to the copyright page to even see if it met the year. And a lot of books, well, I don't know if a lot's the right word, but several books didn't meet the guidelines. So just pay attention to the details like that. So I'll start at the bottom. I start with Mary now since I'll go in the opposite direction.
So I remember taking some notes before we left because I knew I was gonna sleep. And so I was like, been keeping up my little notes right here. So the first thing that I wrote was editing. And what I mean by that is you may have a wonderful story, great characters, just wonderful. But if you skip getting editing, it's a step that will probably really affect the outcome of the product, the book that you've written, because all of us have an eye for looking. I mean, we catch some kind of real quick, and we beg of you, invest in an editor. Even my children's picture book was 300 words. I still had to get it professionally edited. Because that makes good sense. So and just like Gwen was saying, like, you think we might overlook the copyright, you think we might overlook the editing, is not gonna happen. It's just not. So misspelled words. We had some unique thing. One word right here on this page was spelled, a character's name was spelled X, and the very next page had the character's name with an extra letter to it. I mean, it was some unique stuff going on. So,
within the same story. They had the name spelled differently for the same character. So, and these are children's books. So they don't have that many words, except for the ones that are for young adults. But that's really good.
Yeah, I'll just share that for now.
Okay, Brenda, did you have something?
Am I giving, what am I doing? I'm sorry.
You're giving a bit of advice to the people who submitted the book about things to look out for.
Okay. It's similar to Mary because of some of the things that we noticed. Is an editor, invest in an editor. Also, I think allowing the age group that you're targeting to look at the book, perhaps get a low focus group of them to look at the book and see if it resonates. Because some of the books I was like, is this a children's book or is this young adult? And then we started kind of discussing what that was, because if you get them to look at it, they will give you, kids are brutally honest. If they engage, then that's the book for them. And so I think investing in an editor, but also getting that focus group to allow them to give you feedback. I do that with my novels also, and ask people, would you keep reading after this chapter? And you get some people, get some strangers too, because your friends may tell you,
your friends might not tell you the whole truth.
But some of mine will definitely tell me the truth. But so sometimes you may get that. So if you get some strangers, go to a mall, hand them out or something, and let the age group tell you what they think. That's my advice.
Okay.
It's called a focus group.
Yeah. Okay, Rhonda, Jackson Garcia.
I think that I would advise writers to think about the product that you're actually putting out. Like, I think most of us write because we're compelled to. We have these stories, our characters, they tell us you have to do this. But at the point that we put that out in the world and we want people to spend money on it, or we want contest judges to rank it against other products, we have to kind of think about the business side. So we have to think about whether or not that product that we have is actually is competitive. Is it formatted properly? Is the cover what it should be? Does it appeal to the right age group? I think that a lot of times we put out these labors of love, and we don't stop to think about what happens after. Like, just because we love our baby doesn't mean that everybody else is going to love that baby. So you better make sure that that baby is pretty with glitter, the hair is combed, and smells really good and pretty before you expect other people to want to invest in your baby too.
And Shalita?
Yes, I think that's awesome. I want to say, first of all, the judges actually have an eye of excellence. Many are educators, leaders, so used to looking at things and looking for excellence. So I think it's worthy to have your book reviewed by the judges that are on panel. But the other thing, go to a bookstore. Look at other books that are for children of certain ages and review that and see what the intent is. Look at the cover, because most people will look at your cover before they even look at the inside. And I do want to share that we do read those books as well. So people might not know that. So that's how we know, because we don't just say something or write something. We actually look at it with an eye of excellence. So again, congratulations to everyone, and thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. Something else I wanted to mention is one thing that we're going to be changing. Well, it's really not changing this particular thing. It's really because the marketplace changed. But books, especially for Best Illustrator, but even the inside, that are obviously done with AI are disqualified. You can't have a Best Illustrator category that's not a human doing the illustrating. So we did encounter that this year. AI is cute, but it's obvious. Now they might improve it in years to come where you can't tell, but you can tell AI illustrations from hand done, or even, I don't know all the technical terms for art, but you can tell a human didn't do it. It was done by a machine. And the story itself, people are using AI, people are doing shortcuts, trying to just get something out there. And we notice, we see it, and it'll get either disqualified or a low score. Because now for this year coming up, for next year, we're going to specifically say that AI illustrations are not allowed for the Best Illustrator category. We didn't say it, we didn't specify it this year because it had never happened before, but the book got a low score because it's not a real illustrator. It's done by machine. And so we didn't know. That's something new. Different things crop up that are new, and that's something that occurred. And I want to mention one other thing, and then the rest of you all just chime in because we still have a good number of minutes. Just chime in if you think of something in particular. But I don't remember what book it was, and I wouldn't say anyway, or what category it was. But there was a book that was submitted, and it was about counting. And the author was supposedly teaching children how to count, and they had a number of items on the page that was supposed to be the number that they were teaching the kid. And the items, it was wrong number. So they were teaching them the number 8, and there wasn't 8 items on the page. So these are things that you need to be aware of. If you take some time and review your work and not rush, it would be picked up. Or if you got somebody else to review it, it's imperative to get somebody else to look at your work. And normally that's an editor. And if it's a good editor, they'll catch that. But you have to invest in your work and not just put things out just to say I'm an author, and it's people need to really, as Shalita said, we're looking for excellence. We're evaluating it for excellence. And we're not just looking for something average. Otherwise, it's not competitive, So anyway, that was just that situation, and Mary caught it first.
Yeah, that was rough. It caught me off guard. I actually was like, wait a minute. Because I was enjoying it because I think it was Shalita said, we get in the space of that genre and that age. I am this preteen, I am this child who I'm and we turn pages and read it as if we are that age. And okay, it's 8 and I'm counting 8 whatever, and I'm like, oh, that's not 8. Ooh, there's
yeah, this is to be right. I mean, just minor detail. Just because it's for children doesn't mean you can just rush and put anything out there. It needs to.
It makes me think about the investment, and that's probably one of the biggest themes, if we would all agree with, is investing in the process. I self-published my book and I didn't know what I was doing, but I paid for the executive package. And I'm so glad I did, because it included editing, copyright editing, and all that stuff, and illustrate. Well, I had my own Illustrator, but it covered everything. And when you are new to this industry and you only have a limited budget, it's almost like save your money till you can afford to do it the right way. Because otherwise, when you realize you need these other things, then whoever is going to print your stuff for you, if you're going through like an independent publisher or something, they're going to nickel and dime you, and you're going to end up paying more for something that you could have done if you would have bought the package. So, but the illustrations were a big thing. I was looking at my notes. I have illustrations. So I'll just say this, that we had book submissions where the illustrations didn't match the words on the page. There was some text, and it was talking about a particular character, and that character was nowhere on the page at all.
It's true.
Yeah. And then
savage.
Yeah, it was really bizarre, because I was like, because children love to look at what the text is talking about. And so even I was like turning pages back. And and then there was, another submission that had literally 2 different books in one, because the title was one thing, and then half the book was talking about the title, and then the other half was talking about something completely different. Like it was talking about a human being, and then it went to a whole like animal or something. So when the titles,
there's some
unique.
there's some interesting faux pas, if y'all know what a faux pas is, in some of these book publishing, where it's clear that people didn't do homework.
I think though sometimes these small, I'm not going to say just the small presses, but if you don't pay for the editing, those folks want your money. They will, if you get your stuff, and then they'll charge you after because they'll ask you to sign on it, email us back that you confirm that this is what you want. And then if they send you what is that copy, like the proof, and then you look at, oh man, I missed it. Then they're going to start charging you X amount of money to fix it. And so, so when the titles don't match the illustrations or the storyline, because the first thing we do, I think Shalita talked about it, we look at the picture, but do we look at the title? We're seeing if the title kind of has anything to do with the illustration on the front. And then in our mind, we're thinking this is talking about this. You turn the page. So that's all I'm going to share for now.
Yeah, sometimes the title doesn't match what the book is about.
Yeah, that's what I meant. The title didn't match.
Yeah,
The illustrations are, yeah, it's just,
yeah, it doesn't go together, and that's something else we ran into. Shalita, you look like you wanted to say something.
No, I was just thinking about the mind of the children. You know, if your page say it's 7 apples and you have 4 bananas on there, the children will be the first one to tell you, I don't see the apples on this. So I think,
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Us being
yes.
the authors, we have to pay attention to that. And I also think that Mary hit something when she was talking about your title. You know, my first children's book that I did, I had a totally different title for it. But after I wrote it and had it proofread and everything, I look back and that was not what the title should have been, right? So I had to go and do that. And I want to say that because I think it gives authors permission to reevaluate what is the book really talking about, because you do have permission to change it. You're the author, right? So don't just say, because I told them that's the title, you have to evaluate what the title of that book is. So I think that's very, very important. So yeah, thank Mary for bringing that up. But children will tell you, they're not shy, and they'll let you know that ain't what that said. So we trying to help you, save that for.
Yeah, this is true. There are we get a wide variety of books. That's one of the, it's many interesting aspects to it, but we get a wide variety of all kinds of books, and some of them are just grade A, and some need work. I'll say it like that. So, and this is another thing for those of you all who publish through Amazon KDP. And I have 15 books. All 15 are published through Amazon KDP. But all Amazon does is print what you send them. They don't fix. Now, if you order, I think they have some packages you can order where they can fix things and edit and all that. But whatever you put in there, that's what they're going to print out. They're not going to fix it unless you pay them to fix it. Yeah, Amazon KDP is free to submit your book, but the money you have to spend is on the front end before you get it to Amazon KDP. That's where you have to have a person to do your illustrations, and you needed somebody to format your book so the pages, you don't have 2 sentences on one page, and then the next page you have 12 sentences. There should be some balance in a children's book. It should be pretty much, it doesn't have to be the exact same page count, but there needs to be similarities in the pages. But if you're going through Amazon KDP and you think they're going to fix it, they don't fix anything. Now, the thing about Amazon KDP that's great, and Amazon KDP is a sponsor of the National Black Book Festival. They're going to have a team there again this year. You can ask them if you publish to them or thinking about it. You can talk to them. They're really, really accessible and available and approachable. You can ask them whatever questions you need to. And if you find something after you see your proof, you can fix it. Or even after you've printed your first batch of books, let's say you sold your first batch, you go in there and you find an error, you can fix it, and then the next batch can be correct. That's one of the real benefits of Amazon KDP. But you need to hire an editor. Every book needs to be edited. Every single book needs to be edited without exception. So don't think because you have a children's book, you don't need an editor. You do need an editor. So Rhonda and Brenda, you all haven't talked in this other part yet. So
Well, I was just thinking about the books that we saw that were geared toward a younger audience. So I'm thinking like more line and picture books that had these huge long walls of text for the acknowledgments, or like these huge big introductions, or like these huge walls of text at the end explaining all the stuff. And I really, really want to say that you first, that's not quite the audience. If you want to have a teacher or a parent's guide, that could be a whole different book. like think about monetizing these things in the way that they really, in the categories where they should probably go or fit better. Like if you want a whole parent guide or teacher guide, make that a whole separate thing. Don't like tack it in pages and pages of, you know, text in a kid's book. And also the acknowledgement, save something for your press kit. I know we all here, we do a lot of podcasts, a lot of interviews. I'm always looking for pull quotes, like save all that stuff. You want to put it at acknowledgement page, save that for your interviews. And so that you have material for other stuff. Putting it in the front of a kid's book, it's very overwhelming. You know, even me as an adult, I open the book and the first thing I see is this is dedicated to all my English teachers I ever had in the universe, starting back when I was 3 and I was in Head Start. And then, and I mean, and that's wonderful. I'm an English teacher and I love that. But that's kind of not the place for it. And it sort of already puts you in a category that the product is not one that you would see on shelves in a bookstore anyway. Like I don't know of any children's book that I go into a bookstore and buy that's going to have all of that. So save some stuff for later. Write a whole other book. You know, use this for your interviews or something. Sometimes we have to kind of think about that when we think about what the product is. You know, it's kind of daunting.
Yeah, that came up more than once, that the long acknowledgments. Now, and you have to remember, these are books for children. Who's going to read all that stuff for acknowledgement? Is the, you know, you're trying to do a shout out to you know, your Aunt Liz and everybody, you know, that went to the family reunion. That's not the place for it in a children's book. I mean, just go to a bookstore or a library and look at children's books, and you'll see how it's done. I mean, there is a standard, and you can say, well, I don't want to do mine like that. I want to do mine different because okay, it's still a standard. And if you do it different, then if you send a book in for competition, it may not make the cut because it's not meeting a standard. That's all I'm saying. So, Brenda.
I really don't have anything to add on this segment simply because you all have said everything. And I don't want to beat it, you know, how we tend to do. So I think please heed the advice of everything that has been shared, and it will bless you in the end, I promise you.
Well, that's good advice.
Okay.
And Brenda always gives a different aspect to the discussion when we're judging books. And she sometimes will say that we're hard judges. And some of us are, but it's all about raising the level of excellence, like Shalita said. That's what it's about.
And I certainly believe in excellence. That's
and
how I roll.
I know that.
But I still think, oh my God, y'all.
Well, you know, Rhonda's the professor. You know how
I know.
he goes in on, you know, just play it. All in constructive. I want people to don't take it constructive because it's for us, like I think Rhonda was saying earlier, putting literature in the universe, right? And so we're here to help you do that for sure. And when we have the National Black Book Festival, you know, many of us lead different things and we'll share with you, we'll help you. So please don't be shy about asking us. We're very approachable and we want to see you do well. So I think that's worth mentioning because on the other side, it can make it feel, you know, kind of painful. That's not our intention at all. We just want you to have that eye of excellence so you can go to the next level. So that's
right. And we don't name any names, so nobody knows who we're talking about. Right. We would never do anything like that. So,
but I wanted to share, just to add on to what Shalita was saying. Sometimes I know when you get an editor, when I first started writing many years ago, and I first got my first copy of what was edited. It was back when they were still writing on the paper in the margins with all the little things. So I mean, you're like, what? I thought I wrote this really well and I thought I was really good. And you start taking it personal. So you got to develop some thick skin when you're putting your work out there. Just like every podcast, we judge it. Every social media post, we judge it, how they said it, how they looked, what they should have said, and all that. And so I think if you develop some thick skin and just think it's not personal to you or about you, it's just to help you to get better at it. And so one thing that just did pop to mind, and you already talked about the illustrations. I don't know, you can use Fiverr and make them vary it up a little bit. But on some of the books, I remember some of the illustrations, the facial expressions of the little children in the book was the exact same all the way through. And the mom or the dad, the exact same pose, and they just copied it to another page. So just vary it up a little. Go back to my original comment. Let some children see it and let them determine if it's a good look or not. But please take all of the advice that you've heard. Take what you can use, push to the side what you can't use, and go out there and make your book a better product. Because once it's out there, it's just like toothpaste out of a tube. You can't put it back in there. So
No,
you can
but
get
you
a better
can
brand
fix
of
it.
it. You get a
You
better
can't fix
brand of it, but you can't put it back in the tube. Yes, so just know that. So all of us have been edited before and
Oh, yeah.
Oh
and
yeah,
felt some type of way about it.
yeah, it's true. Brenda, what you said was so true. None of it's personal. We don't, it's rare that we know the authors personally. Sometimes we do, but that doesn't have anything to do with the scoring. I can honestly say, even if we know the author, it has to meet a standard. So it's not personal. It's all, and actually in some ways it's personal for us in that we want to present for our finalists and winners, we want to present quality work because the award process and this award itself is important, and we want to be known for awarding excellence. That's what we want to be known for. And so that part is personal in that we care about the outcome, the result, how we're presenting it to the public, to the world. And I will say, those of you who are finalists, you'll receive an congratulation letter, and you'll get 50 gold foil stickers that say finalists that you can put on your book. So each person gets that as part of the process. Now, when we announce the winners at the National Black Book Festival, the winners get a very, very nice acrylic award that's extremely nice. And the overall winner gets the award, and they get a $250 cash prize. So
Did you explain to them how the overall winner is selected? Did you already?
oh, it's all based on the point system. So we score all the books, and in each category, the finalists, the 5 top vote getters in terms of points, they're the 5 finalists. We add up all the points, and then as the ones that get the highest in that particular category are the winners. But we announce the winners at the National Black Book Festival.
So whoever has the highest overall score.
So whoever has the very highest overall score is the grand prize winner, and that person gets the cash prize of $250. So a couple of other things. For images, make sure your images aren't pixelated. I don't know if everyone knows what that means, but
Google it.
Google it.
Google high resolution.
Well, if you look at something and it's fuzzy, if it's fuzzy, that's pixelated.
Is it 381, a 380 DPI or something?
It's 300. Normally it needs to be 300. But if it's not crisp and clear, if your images are fuzzy, your faces are fuzzy on your all your imagery is fuzzy, that means your pixels, you don't have enough pixels. And it's not their best presentation. So this
like we're talking about the things that were wrong, but really when I think about, oh, if this was done, it could have been better. So we're basically just saying the best products were ones who had excellent
Yeah.
illustrations, crisp, clean. The
Mhm.
characters matched the text on the page. There was a good storyline.
Yeah.
The front and the back, it was a good package that made sense. It wasn't size 5, size 2, and size 1. And it flowed. It was very fluid. And I remember, when we saw when we would read through individually, everyone had their own, this is a good book. This was beautiful. And there was a couple of them where, some of us was like, I like this, and the other folks like, I don't like that. I'm staying with this. I'm giving this one a 5. And they're like, well, I'm giving it a 2. Because as
It
they
was,
said, we all see things differently. So, yeah.
yeah, different things bothered different people. And some things bothered everybody. And some things everybody loved. So, it was a mixture. And that's why we add up all the points. A couple of things we're going to be doing different for next year. I mentioned already that it's going to be the copyright needs to be 2023, 2024, or 2025 for next year's process, which starts January 1st. And the window is very long. It's from January to June. It's a very long submission window that gives some people hear about it, and then because you can produce a children's book in 90 days or so, depending on the illustrations of what takes a while. So they give some people an opportunity to produce a book when they hear about it. We're going to be doing as a category. We tried having age 12 and up within the same heading, but that hasn't worked. So what we're going to do is have a separate category for books that are for age 12 plus. That can be any subject. And that way, those can be evaluated separately. For the coloring books, activity books, workbooks, we're combining that with it's a lot of different I won't say genre, but niches. We're putting the comic books with those. Because we try to do it where it's most efficient and where we can get more submissions so we can narrow it down. So we're going to be doing that next year as well. So those are the category. Everything else will be pretty much the same. And educational and motivational are always the most highly submitted categories. Those are the ones we receive the most books in. So we normally, that's really what takes the extra day, is that those two categories have so many books. So, but we really enjoy it, and we get along really well. We don't argue, but there is a lot of banter, it's a lot of conversation back and forth. It's really a fellowship, really. Evaluating these books is really a time of fellowship, and we really take it seriously and are honored to do it, because otherwise these authors who are producing books like this, they wouldn't get any recognition. It will be a labor of love, but recognition is good. It helps motivate people, and there's a lot of good work being produced, but it's just not getting the attention. So that's what we do it to give these authors encouragement, and other people who want to get into the industry, give them encouragement as well.
Mama Tony asked a question.
Oh, she did? Okay. Will the books for ages 12 and up be chapter books? They can be any kind of book. If it's targeted toward the age 12 plus age group. And it's still for children. So that includes teen, young adult fiction, because now the YA fiction is really teens. They're considered young adults for the purposes of the genres. So it can be any kind of book. And Mama Tony, thank you for watching and asking a question. And Mama Tony, she might read children's books. She reads so much stuff. She reads so many books.
She's
might
read,
read
she's
too many
read Thunder and Lightning. She's read mine.
Oh, okay.
From
Okay.
Morning. I love you. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's see, what does it have? The new categories that we have. Images. Oh, make sure that your book has a synopsis on the back. That's where it should be, on the back of the book. Because when somebody picks up your book, they need to be able to turn it over. That's what they expect to be able to do. Turn it over and see, well, what is this about? And the synopsis should be an encapsulation of a couple of sentences, 2 or 3 for a children's book, of what the book covers. And some books didn't have a synopsis. Some books didn't have a real title page. You know, the elements of a book. Go to a bookstore or a library. Some people didn't have the copyright page in the right place. Some people, the copyright was in the back. You know, there's it's called the front matter of a book. And after the title page, that first page should be the copyright. And that wording that says this can't be duplicated or whatever. The year, the ISBN, that should all be on that page. And then if you want to do an acknowledgement or dedication, it goes on the opposite page. And normally, if you go look at any book, it's one sentence, or sometimes it's not even a sentence. It's a phrase. You know, it's short. It's a few words. It's not like a chapter of itself. So we're getting close to the end of the show, but
there's another question.
Oh, okay. What was the other question? I didn't. Okay. Can you submit the same book next year? Yes, if it falls in the copyright guidelines of 2023, 2024, 2025. We had some submissions this year that submitted last year. I couldn't tell you because I can't recall if it changed the outcome or not. But yes, as long as the book, in fact, if you win in one of the categories, you can try it again. That doesn't mean you'll win next year because it depends on the competition. But we don't bar people. Now, some competitions do bar people from submitting if they've won. But we haven't set that rule yet, so we might next year. But we haven't. If sometimes your book will make the cut, and sometimes it won't, depending on the competition. You just never know. And but if you have a new project coming out, and then you feel like you can improve upon what you've done, and maybe you have a better chance, then go for it.
I think if someone's interested, they should, of course, watch this live again, and then perhaps the other ones that we've done, because we do this after every judging. So how many we have? About 3 of them?
This is the third one. This is the third year.
Yeah,
And so all of them are online still. They're all in our video archive on our Facebook page, and they're all around the same time. I think probably if you search on Facebook, because we put in the description, we put that this finalists were announced. So if you look there, also it's on YouTube. So yeah, all the shows are on YouTube too. So starting, I think 2022 was the first year we were on YouTube. Okay. But that was the first year we did the awards. So so all of those will be on there too. So it's probably easier to look it up on YouTube to look at the finalists. And in general, our comments are similar because the process is the same, and the submissions, the faux pas tend to be in a similar category. So anyway, we are almost at the end of the show. We got about a minute left. And so do any of the judges have any closing statements real quick? Or Dr. Rhonda, did you have a closing statement?
No, I think you guys really covered it all. It was great advice all the way around, especially a part about the editing. I didn't realize that children's authors had such long acknowledgments, so that was interesting to learn today. So when I'm talking with my clients, I will make sure they keep that in mind. So that was really good food for thought. So no, I enjoyed just listening to everything that you all said. It was great feedback.
Okay, well, again, the process for the awards, for the Children's Book Awards opens, I think we normally open January 1st, or it'd be shortly after the 1st for next year. And so just go to Black Authors Matter bookawards.com and you'll be able to see the updated guidelines and everything. So this is the end of the show, and we're glad that you tuned in this week. And we'll see you all next Tuesday for another episode of Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.